Don't use the word collusion. The word we usually use is not collusion. Can you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question for me again? I'm sorry, what was the question? You read the last question. Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the last part of that question? Because that went a little fast for me. You have to repeat that for me. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, could you repeat that one? I apologize.
Sure.
Can you start it again?
Okay.
I think this has been a disaster for the Democrats, and I think it's been a disaster for the reputation of Robert Mueller.
As they were using him for clarity, he somehow fogged it up. On optics, this was a disaster. But
a lot of Democrats in particular used the D word and branded this a disaster early on.
I think the country watching and saying, okay, we've been waiting for this. What was this that we just saw? Ultimately, it didn't land where the Democrats said.
From the Democratic perspective, to me so far, it's been a bit of a bust.
Can you repeat that? Sorry, can you move the microphone up a little closer?
Director, please speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Director, could you speak more directly into the microphone? Could you speak into the microphone?
Yeah, I will.
Director, please speak into the microphone.
I'd have to look more closely at the statute.
I just read it to you.
I'm not familiar with that. I am not certain of the...
I hate to be the contrarian on the network. I did not think it went well.
Was the ball advanced?
no, impeachment's over.
I think the likelihood of impeachment went down sharply today.
I thought he was boring. I thought in some cases he was sort of evasive.
I thought Mueller's performance was uninspired. He was clipped. He was confused at times. He did not persuade anybody.
But please continue. In those areas, I am going to stay away from. I have no knowledge on either. Don't know that for sure. I am not familiar with that. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not going to try to explain that. I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah.
I don't know when I found that out. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. I can't speak to that. I can't go into the discussion of, I'm not going to speak to that. I'm not going to speak to that. Can't get into that. That's not within my purview. I'm not going to get into that. I can't get into details. And I'm not going to answer that question, sir. No, we can't get into it. Can't speak to that. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to speak to that. It's outside our purview. I'll recall that one. And not remember it. Don't believe so. Can't get into that. Internal deliberations. Not going to get into that. Can't get into that. I can't get into the evidence. I can't get into it. Can't get into that.
A lot of things you can't get into.
And he seemed lost at times.
He was the FBI director when I worked for George W. Bush. To be honest, this was not the Robert Mueller I knew. But he wouldn't actually say what happened. I thought that was frustrating.
There were times in the hearing when he was sharp as a tack. But we can't avoid the fact that there were times in the hearing that he was not.
You do not have that viral movie trailer moment of Robert Mueller looking directly into a camera and saying,
Don't use the word collusion. The word we usually use is not collusion. Can you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question for me again? I'm sorry, what was the question? You read the last question. Can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the last part of that question? That went a little fast for me. You have to repeat that for me. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, could you repeat that one? I apologize.
Sure.
Can you start it again?
Okay.
If you didn't get a chance to see the hearing today, was evasive and restless, and sometimes he did not appear to have full command of the report that he issued.
There were also times when it seemed like he was unfamiliar with parts of the investigation. Now, I don't know if he couldn't hear.
Can you repeat the question? Could you repeat the question for me again?